Okay, good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. If we can take our seats, we'll get started. I hope it is obvious to you, since we've assembled near enough the entire Indian vehicle logistics industry on stage, that this is the session on finished vehicle logistics and that spare parts logistics is in the other room. So if you're in the wrong room, you would want to make a move now. Welcome to our breakout session here. As I alluded to, we really have a fantastic panel put together here, an international panel I can add at that, covering really the full scope of OEMs, logistics providers, ports, etc. Lots of things here. So like I said, the good news is we've got a great panel. I guess the bad news is we want to try to do it on time. I think some people even have flights to catch, so we'll try to move along. And maybe not as much on our side is that this is finished vehicle logistics, where estimated times of arrival is sometimes plus minus 2 days, whereas inbound, maybe it's a 15-minute time window. So we're going to need our finished vehicle logistics experts to be a bit more precise, perhaps, than normal. But I'm sure they won't have a problem with that. And I still hope to have some time at the end for some Q&A. We've got a mix of presentations and some panelists. I will briefly introduce them to you now. Starting at your left is Mr. R.S. Kapoor, General Manager of Logistics for Outbound at Maruti Suzuki. P.R. Ramakrishnan, General Manager of Marketing Support for Honda India. Mark Morgan, who's the Director of Business Development at Bureau Veritas. Hari Krishnan Sundaram, General Manager, Business Development and Marketing at Adani Ports. Mr. Bill Powluck, the Chief Executive Officer of CTM, Convertible Trailer Manufacturing. And last but certainly not least is Sushil Ratti, Senior Vice President of Mahindra Logistics. We did have a session yesterday on vehicle logistics. Obviously, major topics that have been coming up throughout the conference, whether it's about the new rail services that are developing, the rail freight corridor we just heard about in the last session, and the impact that could have for outbound logistics, things like GST, Rajiv's revelation last session again about the 2026 vision to increase the industry 5 times and the 7 times infrastructure investment that would require, and the holistic approach, which would very much involve, I think, all of the types of players that we have on stage today, whether it's the OEM, service providers, port operators, 3PLs, etc., infrastructure providers. So there's really a need for everyone to work together to hit those, anywhere near hitting those targets efficiently. Okay, since in the interest of time we want to move through, I would like to invite Mr. R.S. Kapoor now to give a presentation.
Good morning, dear friends. Now I'd like to talk about the improvements in the operational with the help of technology and manpower upgradation. Before going to the core subject, let us first see why it is necessary. For this, we have to examine the change of customer behavior. We can see clearly in the slide here, the modern customer does not want to go to the grocery shop even. He wants everything to be delivered at his doorstep with the click of mouse. What we can say, the market is totally shifting towards customer driven. If we extrapolate the same into our business and compare with good olden days, where we see when the car was considered as a luxury, we have to make ourselves happy with whatever brands were available. There was no flexibility on choosing the brands. We had to wait for years for a number. Quality consciousness, customer satisfaction were not heard about. So what we see, the customer profile has also changed in the automobile industry. So friends, if we summarize this all, it clearly emerges that supply chain is becoming complex and the customer is becoming more and more demanding. So what is the solution? Solution is efficient logistics. Going forward, if we see what are the ingredients of the efficient logistics, here we have to deliver to the customer's doorstep, obviously in minimum possible time and cost. Factory fresh condition, I hope you understand factory fresh condition. Unlike good olden days when cars were driven for thousands of kilometers, by the time it reached to the customer it became second hand. And the modern customer wants everything, the information of his consignment at his tip. So the main enablers or key enablers what emerge out from this is increased use of technology, may it be software or hardware both, manpower skill upgradation. Now we'll look into technological part, how it has changed over the period. I told about when the cars were delivered after driving thousands of kilometers. Now we ensure that customer gets 0 mile delivery. Tracking used to be a Herculean task. We used to use landlines, pagers, mobile phones, swipe cards, but these were all at the mercy of the drivers, who used to feel that if any time anybody calls to them, it is intrusion into their privacy. But with advent of GPS, things have changed. The technology is affordable and easy to use. Extending the usage of GPS. First is anywhere real-time track and trace. We have been able to improve upon the daily running. Obviously, customer satisfaction has been enhanced. To large extent, we have been able to prevent en route thefts, improve upon the logistics performance, and use it towards the safety of our operations also. When we talk about real-time information flow, it is to the all stakeholders, starting from the principals, like at Maruti, we can sit and know what is the movement of our consignments. The dealers, the customers, they are pretty sure at what date and what time the consignment will be delivered to them. And the service provider, their life has become really easy to monitor their operations. We have extended the use of GPS into the safety of our operations. We have developed driver alert systems with the help of our GPS service providers. They have been integrated with the GPS systems. This, in the event of driving, generates voice alert systems at various incidents. Some examples here are, first of all, it will generate a greeting.
Wish you a safe journey. Be careful while driving and ensure all lashing belts are properly tightened.
In case the driver is over speeding, it will generate a
Please maintain the speed limit.
We have mapped the accident-prone areas with experience into the GPS, and as and when the carrier enters in that area, it generates a
Accident-prone zone. Please drive carefully.
Another reason for accident, what we observed was long driving hours, continuous driving. So we advise the drivers to take rest.
Don't drive continuously for more than 4 hours. Please take rest.
We have also noticed that a lot of accidents happen due to rash driving or harsh brakings.
Sudden braking may lead to accident. Please remain alert while driving.
With the increase in numbers and congestion on the roads, we have to explore other options. Here, train and seaways are some options. We have gone in big way in multimodal transportation, that is through trains. Under the guidance of railways, under the AFTO policy, which was discussed yesterday by our friends, Maruti was the first one to venture into this. We have now developed 2 exclusive rakes for Maruti. Others are in pipeline. We are further trying to bring it railway siding into our operations in Manesar. These rakes have been developed under the guidance of RDSO. We can see here the technological improvement with time in the rail operations. Initially, we were having NMGs, what we call as new modified goods train. This used to carry a limited capacity of 125 cars. Then railways developed auto wagon for us with increase in capacity of 265 cars. Still, the size of cars is an issue in this. Now, with the new rakes, which is high capacity, they can carry up to 318 cars, and the size of car is not at all an issue. These are double deck, flexi deck auto wagons. We have also extended the use of train into our export operations thanks to our business partners Adani. Here we are using the containers, optimizing the stuffing of containers with the help of cassettes. You can see here the cassettes. We can stuff up to 5 cars in a 40 footer. The same is railed down to the Mundra port. We have our operations at the Mundra port where we de-stuff them, do the PDI, and then load it into the ships, ro-ro vessels for onward journey. So these were some technological improvements, the key technological improvements what has been done. The next major key enabler into the business is manpower upgradation. We also know the logistics in the country is still in unorganized sector, where manpower availability is a challenge. Enhancing their skill is a bit more challenging task. But we have to do that to the best of our use. We can do that by organizing frequent trainings in accident prevention, handling of new products, like we recently launched Celerio AMT versions, focusing on the health and hygiene of the drivers, which is very important. A healthy mind can give you wonderful results. We have to look at the improvement of the soft skills. Still in our country, driving profession is considered a bit low. So we have to continuously improve and motivate on this. We have to guide them, counsel them for the improvements. And above all, inculcate the habit of safety. Maruti has gone a long way into these areas. We organize refresher training course by our other arm, IDTR, Institute of Driver Training and Research in Delhi. We have developed dedicated driver education centers at both our plants in Gurgaon and Manesar. We organize regular events of driver motivation like health checks, eye checkup camps, street plays to communicate to them various evils of the journey, and counseling. Friends, what is the result? Results, we have been able to, seeing over a perspective of 3 years, we have been able to increase our timely deliveries by 10%. We have been able to reduce accident returns by almost 45%. We have been able to reduce transit damages by 28% and direct savings of more than 80 million rupees. So, looking at the way ahead, we have to further drill down the use of GPS by developing accident alert systems prevalent in the Western countries. We have to extend it to the monitor of carrier health, driver behaviors, and we have to continuously upgrade manpower into handling of new products, operating new equipments, and enhancing safety aspects. This is all from my side. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kapoor. Another great outline, I think, of some of the trends in the industry, the complexity, the desire for quality, and how Maruti is responding. Next up, Mr. Ramakrishnan from Honda.
Good morning to one and all. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of this group of logistics experts. Thank you for allowing me to share my thought. I will be focusing on efficiency in logistics. It is not a new subject or new topic. All the speakers before me and after me will be talking on this subject. In case if you find any repetitive content, it only reiterates the purpose of talking about this, because by efficiency we can actually reduce cost and eliminate waste. All the data shown are mentioned in the presentation have been taken from various sources, whether it could be a SAM data or some research agency or highway authority. The projected global GDP growth is at a glance. When we look at it, the green highlighted portions are more of Asia and Southeast Asia. India falls under this zone where the growth of GDP is expected to be over 5%. The fact is, India is poised for a growth rapid among Asian nations, and also will become third largest automobile manufacturer in the next decade. With Make India campaign, will we realize this, but are we ready? Just to convert this into some numbers and figures, the commercial vehicle is likely to grow at 7%, passenger vehicle at about 12%, and two-wheeler at 12%. Which converts into a 5 million by 2020 and about 29.5 million. When we are looking at the logistics opportunity, carrier requirement also will be growing, as well as the freight volume overall. What we have tried to do is, what is the growth and what is it converted into a volume. When we do also look at the supporting factors like current road network, which is growing only at about 4.01%. In fact, when we look at the good motorable road like express highway or national highway or state highways, it's only contributing to about 5.27. This is the National Highway Authority's records. So are we ready really for such a challenge? current issues that we are facing. As we know, production will always be linear, whereas demand will always be up and down. But the challenge is to meet the customer demand. So it is supposed to be demand will be always varying. So how are we going to meet? Sales are sometimes driven by incentives, which the customer keeps hunting. The infrastructure, road infrastructure conditions and the vehicle carriers requires. In fact, the road conditions are so bad that even a good carrier may get bad over a period of a year or two. So why logistics efficiency is important? Quality, cost, delivery and management. When we say quality, as Mr. Kapoor had mentioned, every customer looks for factory fresh condition cars. That is the minimum he expects. Delivery of CBU at the best logistic cost, because this will ensure competitiveness. Maintain service level, because if there is a delay in delivery, it's likely to be a loss of sales. And by achieving all these things, we can also increase our customer satisfaction, which directly results in better word of mouth and customer gets customer. I have just tried to analyze what our current situation is in a typical case study basis. What we can control, or what we means OEMs or vendors and the government. We have been talking about this subject from yesterday onwards. Multiple toll plaza. This is a typical trip from Delhi to Bangalore. Standard lead time which we have taken is about 8 hours. The travel per day, the truck or trailer travels about 325 to 350 kilometers on an average. There are a number of toll plaza which is about 42. Average waiting time is 30. So we are wasting almost 21 hours. In the traffic jam, which is chaotic, most of the time we come across, the average waiting time is 75 minutes, we lose about 8 hours. The RTOs where the trucks are held, it's about 11. When we club all these things, the loss due to traffic condition is approximately 3.7 days. A trip which can be done in about 4.3 days. 50%, close to 50% is lost because of conditions. This is actually resulting in what? Revenue loss to the vendor. Against a possible trip in a trailer which can be 5.5, he is currently only doing 3.5. 2 trips he is losing. Loss of diesel to the national exchequer because it keeps going. So when you look at it as an impact on the logistics industry and to our country, we just try to understand that about 60,000 crore is wasted only on the diesel and other revenues. Excess capacity, just because we have reduced from 5.5 to 3.5, a possible capacity is getting reduced. So we have created excess capacity into the system, which is only adding to the inefficiency. All this is added at a cost and is a waste to the nation as well as to the investor. Further, when we delved into the logistics cost, India, as we know, is one of the highest in cost. We are at about 14%. And just to summarize, anything between 14 to 18% of GDP, while most of the nations are at about 9 to 11%. Even if we are able to bring down the cost by about 2.8%, what is that we can do is, like in the previous slide I had mentioned about the number of trips a person can do or a truck can do, which can actually improve their rotation and revenue. With the Indian economy poised for a growth at over 5 to 6%, logistics, as we understand, will require a major change to meet the growing market demand. I am just trying to summarize because, see, many presentations have been done where we have spoken on what we have done and what we have not done. What I am trying to understand as a group and throwing open a point is, logistics group, how and what we can contribute. OEMs, identify and create logistics hub closer to the consumption point. I would like to refer to Maruti here. They have already taken a leap forward on this. They have in fact created 2 such logistics hub. One is in Bangalore and the other one is in Nagpur. The purpose probably of doing it is in order to maintain linearity in supplies to the market. Set inventory standards. Sometimes we keep sending the material without understanding whether the secondary sales are happening or not. So it is actually creating inventories which may be required after a little longer time. So how can we do that in order to improve? Use alternate mode of transportation, rail, ro-ro, container or sea. In fact, we are one of the manufacturers who have started using railway for dispatch of our cars from north terminal to south. Then transporters. What is the transporters? Transporters can maintain their quality. Institute HR practices, because we keep hearing from most of the transporters that drivers are not available. We are finding it a major problem to get drivers. So how can we institute good HR practices which will be helpful in holding and retaining the drivers? Create driver training centers to impart knowledge, skill and road safety. Government, I think from yesterday onwards, there has been many discussions which has been going on. I have just tried to put those as a summarized point. Finally, I think it is awakening. Better late than never. Let us begin the journey together for a future, because I think we only can create the change. If we keep waiting for the change to happen, it will never happen. So let us make the change. Let us begin here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramakrishnan. Again, a powerful message there, I think, for everyone in the room and indeed on stage, highlighting some of the inefficiencies in the areas that we need to target. Next up, Mark Morgan from Bureau Veritas.
So good morning. Picking up on today's theme, efficiency, I'd like to give you a view taken from an area of the supply chain that is vitally important, yet is sometimes wrongly seen as a secondary priority, and that's damage management. You'll be aware that the development of the global automotive industry over the past 10 years has seen significant changes in both the complexity and the lengthening of the supply chain. Many factors impact on a product that is uniquely unprotected compared to all other consumer goods that are delivered around the world. This makes it vulnerable to delay and damage, which causes dissatisfaction from a customer expecting his vehicle to arrive in perfect condition and on time. You may also be aware of the conflicting objectives of the key players involved in getting a vehicle from the factory to the customer. In essence, they're trying to get the right vehicle to the right place at the right time, undamaged. But in reality, it's far more complex than that. Each has their own priorities, and these priorities are rarely in the same order of importance for all the parties. Therefore, it's no wonder that the finished vehicle supply chain has become so unnecessarily complex and difficult. But here I must pause and ask you to ask yourself, has all this complexity made us too busy to appreciate how simple the actual task really is? Are we spending a lot of time solving issues that should have been avoided in the first place? And, most importantly, can we really avoid damaging vehicles? After all, damage adds no value to the supply chain process and typically ends up being billed to a logistics service provider, which eats away at the profits that could be invested into innovations or vital infrastructure investments. Let's start by reminding ourselves of the main problems that can occur in moving vehicles. These fall into two categories: delay and damage. Delays are caused by unpredictable issues like production and weather, but they can also be caused by manageable issues like poor planning, a lack of resource, such as road, rail, or shipping capacity. Damage is equally caused by forces outside of our control, like adverse weather conditions or accidents, but can also be caused by manageable issues like bad handling, poor quality facilities like storage compounds or even older transport units not suitable to today's vehicles, which are wider, taller, and longer than ever before. All these contribute to a failure to fulfill the brand promise, contributing to an unhappy customer, unnecessary repair costs, and an increase in future insurance premiums, which will reduce future profit margins. But more importantly, and as I slightly alluded to yesterday in the session, what does damage truly cost? Well, this slide is based on my experience across many regions, but I have put it in terms of the European model. So please excuse me, and I do fully appreciate equally that the Indian market has a slightly different model for this as well. But let me take you through what the key true costs can be. Firstly, the financial cost of actually repairing a vehicle, even if it's allowed by the brand owner. As you'll know, many cars cannot be repaired if they've suffered a certain amount of damage and sold as new. In the European market, this averages at €300 per repaired vehicle. Okay, so you've got a basic idea of a cost there. And then you can add, you must add to that an administration cost for the claim, and somebody will make you pay, and certainly in certain marketplaces now, that's becoming something that the claims management company on behalf of the manufacturer or the owner of the vehicle will actually now charge you if you damage a vehicle. And then you've got to add to that an inventory cost. And again, I've asked two experts in the market on this, and they've both given me the same figure, which equates to around about $3 per day per car in the supply chain. Somebody mentioned to me last night the fact that if a car was damaged and therefore missed an export ship, therefore it'd have to wait for another month before the next ship. 30 days times $3 times how many cars. You can work out the figures for yourself, and again, obviously put the local pricing on that. But you start to get an idea of how these very tangible costs can build up. Secondly, and I've already alluded to this already, customer satisfaction will suffer. And as we all know, you can't put a price on customer satisfaction, but if you remember, for every unhappy customer, they will tell 6 other people. Okay, for every happy customer, they typically tell 2 or 3 people. An unhappy customer will tell 6 or 7 of their friends or family. And therefore, customer satisfaction will be affected. And of course, as an LSP, that may affect your contractual conditions, and therefore you may not renew your contract if you're damaging so many cars that customer satisfaction is being affected by the brand owner. And thirdly, insurance premiums will go up. Now, if you don't believe me, please show me a poor insurance company. There aren't any, because they know what your past records are of claims, and therefore they will always change their premium to make sure they don't lose money. In summary, we've got both tangible and intangible costs, and don't fool yourself that those intangible costs are invisible. They will catch you up in the end. So, as a target for our industry, we should be aiming for 0 damage. Sorry, this slide looks slightly flurry, but hopefully you can read that. We should be aiming for 0 damage. And whilst you may be saying to yourself, or indeed saying to me, Mark, this is unrealistic, it needs to be our aim if we're to get anywhere close to it. And here I've suggested a 3-point approach towards 0 damages: planning, management, and improvement. Firstly, through better proactive planning, you can create the right conditions and understanding for all those who will be involved in moving vehicles. Amazingly, many logistics service providers around the world still don't know what the handling standards are expected of them. So is it a surprise when they get it wrong? Secondly, managing in real time can both prevent damage and reduce the impact of damage significantly. Visibility, and the previous speakers spoke about this, visibility is what everybody wants, and it could and should be the automatic and even perhaps free byproduct of a good supply chain process. Inspecting vehicles can be one of these sources of visibility, as inspections and audits provide instant digital data on what is happening to the vehicles and where it is happening. This will put you in control of your vehicles. And thirdly, there will always be room for improvement, and having this data gives you the information to identify the causes of damage and how to go about reducing them through training or improved standards. So essentially, this is a continuous circle: plan, manage, improve, go back to the planning circle again and start again. And it gets easier and easier to maintain if you set it up correctly in the first place. So in practical terms, what should you be doing? Well, the graphic on this slide demonstrates the full range of services available for the whole life of a car. My focus will be on the left-hand side of the slide, which is all to do with new vehicles. Let's start with the handover inspections. Now, handover inspections are still the only way to see if and where a car gets damaged within the supply chain. This information is priceless, as it can provide an insight into the quality of your supply chain. Every time a vehicle transfers from one logistics company to another, there should be an inspection done. Now, to see this as purely a cost is deluding yourself and opening yourself up to significant liabilities. And I ask you, please reconsider this thought if that's how you feel inspections are purely a cost without benefit. Now, at this point, I'd also like to just stop for a minute and tackle a slightly delicate subject. And the subject is about damages before the vehicle has even left the plant, typically at the end of the line. Now, I appreciate that our manufacturing colleagues, some of which may be in the room, don't like to be criticized. But is it right that they should be allowed to believe that damage of any sort is acceptable? The customer and his representatives, the dealers, won't accept this, and the supply chain partners typically carry the cost of rectifying such damage, even though it wasn't possibly their responsibility. Now, you can call this normal if you like. In certain parts of the world, this is just seen as, well, that's normal, that's what happens. But it's unfair, causes bad feeling, and can never be eliminated unless people are brave enough to acknowledge and tackle it. I've seen the success story happen at a European manufacturer. It took time, it took about 7 years, it took courage, but the improvements are plain to see. Damages are down, costs are down, the supplier loyalty has gone up hugely, and the customer satisfaction has gone up hugely as well. It really is a win-win, win-win situation. Now, as I said before, inspection is the only way to clearly show where and when damages occur. An independent inspector is there to protect the brand, and those who lovingly build the vehicle should be prepared to accept that it's not in the best condition to send, it shouldn't be sent. In the long term, this is the right thing to do. The second issue is about claims management, and it's another area that's perhaps not fully appreciated and yet is key to reducing costs and damage levels. Even professional insurance companies will acknowledge that only by using a specialist who understand the peculiarities of finished vehicle logistics sectors, you will truly be able to harness the power of what is seen as a consequence of damage rather than insight into the health of the vehicle supply chain. I've been told by many people many times that damage is just a zero-sum game with no consequential loss to the manufacturer or the insurer, because of course the logistics service provider will be made to pay for it. Well, firstly, I challenge you to prove that you can find a person who damaged the vehicle every time. In fact, less than 30% of damages are traced back to the true culprit, especially when there's no comprehensive professional system in place to identify where and when the damage happened. In truth, it's a game, and it's a game of who can pass the vehicle from one person to the next without recognizing the damage. And like all games, there's an element of risk and an element of luck. You might get lucky, but then again, you might not. And if you're not, you might lose, and lose big. Do reconsider your previously held beliefs or misunderstandings about claims management and reduce your risk considerably. And finally, audits are another way of understanding and controlling the supply chain environment. Handling standards across suppliers will vary, so don't believe that everybody will interpret your quality requirements in the same way. You need to check on a regular basis. Human nature shows us that a supply chain left unmanaged typically reverts to poor practice very quickly, and this causes avoidable damage. And finally, a brief word on IT for the collection and management of vehicle collection data. As has been mentioned on more than one occasion, collecting data on a vehicle, its condition and location provides you with a number of opportunities to track the asset, manage it better in real time, and understand the causes of damage within the supply chain. Professional organizations like ourselves cannot exist without these operational tools. If your supplier doesn't have a modern system solution, you should be asking them, why not? Alternatively, come and talk to us. Just some short words to finish off my presentation about the group I represent, Bureau Veritas. For those of you who may not have heard of us, we're a €4 billion turnover group working primarily across 8 industry sectors, 140 offices around the world. We're leaders in testing, inspection, and certification. And through our global coverage, we're able to handle vehicles in any part of the world to the same high standards and have the data available to you via an internet connection almost immediately. Within the new vehicle damage sector, we have customers from manufacturing, shipping lines, logistics service providers, and insurance companies around the world. Our depth of experience can be your advantage. And why use us? Well, we have unrivaled experience in the sector, a global reach that I've just mentioned, and experience working with some of the largest brands. And we also provide an impartial service and provide you with trusted reporting based on the data collected. Final slide, final thoughts, and thank you for listening to me today. Firstly, the lowest price isn't always the best solution. You'll know this in your everyday existence. But sometimes it's worth reminding you, and going back to the little cartoon I showed you earlier, stop being too busy to see the obvious. Secondly, do consider the benefits of outsourcing when expertise is what you really need. Okay, expertise is what you're looking for. Thirdly, we're here to protect your brand promise. I hope you are too. And finally, damage rates will lead to increased future costs. This is just a fact of life. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Mark, thanks for outlining that. Again, an important issue, obviously, for damages, and I'm sure there's no stranger to these in India. Again, moving right along, I'd now like to invite Harry up from Adani.
Morning, everybody. It's an honor to be here. Esteemed speakers and stalwarts from the industry are all here. Topic for today is transforming ports and terminals, improving congestion, improving infrastructure. So I'm making it a very quick presentation, waiting for it to start. Yep, sorry. Just a quick introduction on Adani Group for those who all don't know about us. We are a group with diversified business interests and with a total turnover of $9.4 billion. Our core interests are in energy, resources, and ports and logistics. We are the largest private port operator in India. We operate the port of Mundra on the west coast and right up to the port of Dhamra in the east coast. We have about 8 ports and terminals in our portfolio, basically container terminals, bulk terminals, and ro-ro facilities. Maruti Suzuki is our business partner, and we have a long-term association with them for 20 years for using Mundra port for their vehicle exports. We also offer automotive logistic solutions through our subsidiary company, Adani Logistics. Again, we work very closely with Maruti on transportation of cars from their plant in Gurgaon to the port of Mundra, which Mr. Kapoor has already touched upon. Sorry. Yeah. Basically, we have 2 ports which cater to the OEMs in the northwest India, port of Mundra, and recently we have commissioned a port in Gujarat, which is the port of Hazira. That's primarily to cater to the western cluster OEMs, and it serves as an alternative to the port of Bombay. Yeah. Ports and terminals is a very, very important link in the overall supply chain. We have always heard in many conferences, many seminars that India lacks capacity. India lacks terminal capacity, whether it is bulk or containers or ro-ro. But we at Adani Ports, we have always created infrastructure and capacity ahead of demand, and we have demonstrated that. and we have been successful in doing that, and that's why we are the #1 port operator in India today. We have an auto terminal in Mundra. We have state-of-the-art facilities there. We operate 24/7 at Mundra. We have link span and floating pontoon, basically that ensures the operations are 24/7 without any stoppages for tidal variations. In Hazira, we will be using the container terminal to operate the Ro-Ro ships initially, till we see the volumes picking up there. We have a dedicated buffer yard space for Maruti Suzuki in Mundra, and there is ample space for development. Mundra, there is no constraint for space. Areas can be developed very quickly, as much as possible, as fast as possible. I'm sorry. In Hazira also we have buffer yard space very close to the Ro-Ro berth, for which can take care of the OEM's requirements. Vehicle exports in Mundra has seen, we started off in 2009. Again, 95% of these volumes are Maruti Suzuki. About 5% is a little bit of Tata Motors and Mahindra and other OEMs which use Mundra. Improving congestion. I have listed down few points which we are focusing highly on. You need excellent roads to the ports. That's one of the key areas. We have always seen congestion on roads, congestion in gates, etc. Bad condition of roads, etc. In Mundra, we follow a convoy system whenever the vehicles are moved, and there is a dedicated lane for moving the cars which are coming into the port. We are having the RFID tags option at Hazira for a green channel entry of cars into the port. This option we are exercising in Mundra, and we should be there live early next year. It is very critical that you need different berths for different commodities. I mean, you can't have a car carrier vessel calling on a same berth that handles a coal or a agri product, etc. That's a killer. That happens very frequently in other ports. So we ensure that each commodity is handled at different berth, and that's why we have enough infrastructure and capabilities at our ports to handle different commodities and at different berths. Ultimately, the shipping line, the car carrier operators would need no berth waiting time for the ships. They have to come, they have to berth fast, and they have to sail. And this is possible only with planning and scheduling of ships, which we do very closely with our customers. Seeing is believing. I've just put some photographs. These are the approach roads to our ports, and vehicles move in convoys. Infrastructure improvements, basically dedicated buffer yard and staging areas, which should be ideally very close to the berth. You can't have a buffer yard which is like 10 kilometers away, and 3-4 different staging areas, which causes a lot of complications. Clean cargoes to be handled near the Ro-Ro berth. That will be the requirement of every OEM, every even shipping line. There should be no contamination due to any dusty cargo or coal cargo. There should be sufficient lighting, fencing, and security. High level of safety, ensuring zero damage to the vehicles. High productivity, loading rates, ultimately resulting in faster turnaround of ships. And finally, capability to handle multimodal solutions, capability to handle auto trains, capability to handle the auto wagons, which are operating now very recently. Pictures again. This is the floating pontoon and the link span in Mundra, and cars loaded on the ships. This is the buffer yard of Maruti Suzuki that we have in Mundra. At any point of time, we store up to 2,500 cars. This is very close to the berth, about 400 meters from the berth. We do a lot of, or rather we believe in training a lot. We have our in-house team for training, drivers, signalmen, parkers, security, supervisors, everything. That's all done in-house, and it is done periodically to ensure high level of safety. Thank you very much. Objective was to show how as Adani Ports we are building infrastructure and we are adding value to the OEMs, to the shipping lines by providing state-of-the-art facilities at our ports. And I'm sure this will result in reduction of your overall cost in the supply chain. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Again, always interesting to hear about new developments at Hazura with some new auto terminal facilities there and other new projects. I think we have one more presentation before we'll have some discussion. So I'd like to invite Bill Pollock from CTM.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Forgive my voice. I think I lost it last night. I'm Bill Pollock, Convertible Trailer Manufacturing. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Canada, long ways from this part of the world, of course. And I used to have my own auto transportation fleet. And I was dismayed very much by the total waste in the auto carrier sector, where you're running around empty almost half the time. I found this to be a very unacceptable situation. So I'm here, of course, I'm going to be promoting my company, but forget all that. I really do want to talk about the waste in auto carrier assets around the world and how we can improve this situation. It should not continue. I was able in my own fleet to reduce my empty mile factor from 37% down to less than 5%, all within a 1 year of implementing the usage of our style of equipment. Today's topic, of course, evolution. What's going to happen in this industry? How are we going to improve it? How can we improve transporter technology to make it more efficient? As Mr. Ramakrishnan had mentioned earlier, your trucks are stuck in traffic. I think you mentioned 30% of the time. This is ridiculous, this is crazy, but it is a condition that we deal with, and it's a massive cost. So we better make sure that equipment is doing everything it possibly can be doing while it's stuck in traffic. The big issue for me is, and I'm looking at this concept from a worldwide perspective, and I'm looking also at the Indian market, and it is quite unique because the issue is enclosed versus non-enclosed carriers. Seems to be the dividing path, we'll say, in this industry. So I'm trying to understand, is enclosed really necessary, and why is it that the Indian market is different? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm here trying to learn, so I would appreciate this type of input from you as we go. Are there perceived damages due to vandalism? Is that really what this is all about? Is it just road conditions? What is it exactly? We're trying to figure that one out. And are there certain routes where a non-enclosed carrier is viable in India? I would like to think so, that is the case. Or do we develop a convertible trailer that is purely enclosed? In India, of course, this is the type of product that you're using. I've seen many examples of it. While here, North America, though, we use predominantly open carriers. And in Europe, open carriers. South America, same thing. And China, I put this slide up more for humor purposes, not to mock the Chinese, but look how big those carriers are. And this refers back to this situation that you guys are talking about with your legislation running with legal equipment. And in China, they have a big problem where they're just building bigger and bigger carriers and paying bigger fines, trying to reduce the cost of delivering vehicles. I hope it doesn't happen to India. I hope you get your legislation under control here quickly and adhere to it, and everybody in the supply chain support it. But in China, they are using open carriers as well, successfully. So I'm trying to make the leap here from this enclosed, non-enclosed situation here in China, and I also want to help you understand what value we plan to bring to this industry here in India. I call it the inbound, outbound revolution. Why are we employing trucks to go out there, deliver their vehicles, and come back empty? What are we doing this for? Why do we find this habit acceptable? Why don't we do something about it? Why aren't we combining the inbound, outbound silos? Take that staff that you have working in two separate departments, bring them together to start working together, because the equipment does exist, the technology does exist in this world today to combine those departments. Why not? And why are we not integrating outbound logistics with general freight around the world and using that scale to help us reduce costs? Why are we not doing that? Is it that difficult? I call this turn and burn. Load your carrier, go out there, deliver your vehicles, come back empty. Turn and burn. Turn and burn. We do it every day. There's nothing ingenious about that. There's nothing innovative about that. Yet we do it. This waste in road, rail, and ocean, we estimate to be at $75 billion a year around the world. It's massive. And who's paying for it? The customer, of course. We can bring that value back into our own businesses. Needless to say, the environmental footprint is terrible. In my company, I believe that there's two hardware solutions that can solve this problem, that can reduce this waste. And that's between the delivery of a convertible style piece of equipment, something that hauls vehicles on its outbound leg and comes back with something else, because the equipment is designed to haul perhaps a container or other general freight, or what we dub as the auto box, an additional dry enclosure that maybe we can use to put right into the plant's line side. We have a little animation here that doesn't appear to be working, but here we go. And basically, this is a proposed pilot project that we're going to be running here this coming year, where we're going to ship vehicles for a particular OEM outbound and come back with full loads of engines. Why not make that truck work 100% of the time? That's what it's designed to do. We have a technical glitch here. Anyhow, there we go. Oh boy, we're way out. Can we advance the slides? Where are we at? Yeah, take it just past the animation, please. So here are the next several slides. There's just going to be several examples. I just want you guys to think about the possibilities that we can bring in your own operations. This isn't going to work for everybody at each one of these examples, but I believe that these are applicable to many or most of the operations here in India. This is an example of auto boxes. This is a smaller collapsible dry container that we're proposing to create a standardized box where we can ship perhaps engines for all OEMs, not just one, but all of them. Why can't we do that? This is what our equipment looks like when it's collapsed after delivering vehicles. Imagine what we could do with that. That doesn't have to come home empty. I've done this thousands of times in my fleet. It works. We can haul a variety of products, doesn't matter. Here's a nice example of you can mix loads, less than load products. Go to the general freight industry. If there's no inbound product coming in for your OEM, your customer, well, go to the general freight industry. Go find something to bring back, because there's lots of options out there. More examples. The Autobox, just a little bit of information about this. Collapsible dry intermodal box that can be used on auto carrier assets, road, rail, and ocean around the world. We're developing this product. This is still in development. We do not have this ready for market yet, but I want to get people thinking about this now, so that when they're preparing their future logistics plans, that they take this into consideration, because this box will be usable in the next short while. 20 boxes equals one 40-foot container. Collapsibility, relocation costs. Maybe we can pool these things. Containers don't collapse. And I don't want to slam containers, of course, but they cost just as much to bring in as they do to take out. Why don't we collapse this stuff? Stackability, of course, trackability. We want to use the latest technology and track everything so you know where your product is. It can be used on road, rail, and ocean assets alike. Imagine if we could take all that capacity out there and turn it into some productivity in each of our operations. This slide is here to demonstrate that we can put this Autobox, doesn't need to be on a convertible trailer. It can be on any flat deck asset out there. So it can enter into the transportation streams that already exist out there flawlessly, seamlessly. We could take it line side, direct line side. Why not? This is the loss in the industry. During the time of my presentation here, we've lost millions and millions of dollars. $205 million a day, $1 billion a week, and $75 billion annually. This is available to us as an industry. And I'd like to see India be part of the development of this concept. The loss equals $10 for every human being on Earth. That's a very large number. And $10 means a lot to some people in this world, of course. We'd like to change that from turn and burn to turn and earn. Make this equipment do its job. So I'll just conclude my presentation here by saying I'd like to get more information from you, the customer, the industry players, industry leaders. Why do you want to use enclosed? And is there opportunity to use non-enclosed? Because the cost of an enclosed carrier obviously is more. We want to reduce those costs as much as possible. Are there acceptable lanes to run open carriers? Or do we develop an enclosed convertible trailer? Which is possible, but that's a longer road, of course, and more investment. But anyhow, that concludes my presentation. I thank you for your attention.
Okay, Bill, thanks again for sharing that. Those of you who've been to other events around the world, you know, Bill's on a long journey, but he is, I think, starting to see some change starting to happen, because, I mean, making change in this industry is not always an easy thing to do, as I'm sure he can elaborate on more. Sushil from Mahindra doesn't have a presentation, but maybe ask you to make some comments about some of the challenges you're seeing in finished vehicle logistics, also from a Mahindra logistics point of view, as you've also had some interesting developments of late.
Hello. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Just a quick introduction. If people who don't know about Mahindra Logistics, Mahindra Logistics is the one of the largest auto logistics player in India. Especially since the topic for today is on the outbound side. We transport more than 1 million vehicles every year for a variety of OEMs, and since last 2 days I have been hearing about the logistics cost optimization, and there are various areas where the challenge lies, and what could be the possible solution is something which I would like to kind of share my thought process on that. See, today while the OEMs believe that the logistics cost is high, and on the other hand the transporters and 3PLs believe that they are not making any margins because of the way the rates are structured today. The truth lies somewhere in between. There's definitely today transporters are having a very tough time, because if you really see what they are doing is they are running off the trailers is around average 4,000 kilometers a month. And at that rate, definitely the business is not viable. They need to run something like 6,000 kilometer minimum to make things happen. Now, what are the challenges in doing that? There are multiple issues at hand. One is the regional imbalance which has come. So you have more production in north, lesser production now in the west and in the south. And because of that, there is an imbalance in terms of the return load management. Second issue which comes is the lopsided distribution, because if you see all the OEMs, the 40 to 50% sale happens in the last 1 week. So there is a pressure to bring the trailers at all the OEMs towards the month end, while during the month the distribution is not there and trailers are waiting. So that means effectively it's all underutilized. The trailer capacity which is available is underutilized, and while they should be making more runs, it is actually not happening because of these regions. Some of the solutions which have been also talked about in the previous presentation is the possibility of creating the regional hubs or the stockyards by the OEMs, so that the uniform distribution can happen throughout the month, and which will make sure that the trailer capacity is utilized in a better way. Now this is very, very crucial, because not only that it can react to this imbalance, zonal imbalance, but it can also give higher turnaround to the each trailer. Thereby, I am sure in the whole process even OEMs will get benefited, because if trailers are able to run more than 6,000 kilometers a month or more, then obviously their business will be viable and they will be able to share some of those benefits even with the OEMs. So this is, I think, crucial. Second issue, of course, is related to the government and the infrastructure, where a lot of cost is incurred by the transporter in terms of the on-road expenses, which sometimes are legal and sometimes illegal. But those are the challenges because of which not only the cost gets impacted, but even the transit time gets impacted. And transit time, once it gets impacted, also has an impact in terms of your rotation of the vehicle on a monthly basis. So those challenges are there. All of us know very, very clearly. A lot of speakers have spoken about those challenges, so I don't want to repeat it. But once those things are addressed, I am sure the optimization of the logistics cost can happen. Another area which is a little different thinking from my point of view is, there are too many different and fragmented players in India in terms of the transportation. And what happens is, some people have some connect with an OEM or a contract with OEM. They may not have the return load contract with the other OEMs, and that can create a problem in terms of their operating expenses. So maybe there is a need even to look at a consolidation, just like in other countries, all developed countries, you will see there are LSPs who are the lead service providers, and then the lot of transporters work under them. Maybe those kind of concept will leverage and optimize the running of all the trucks which are available in the marketplace. So those are the things which probably will help in terms of the overall cost optimization. And as somebody had said earlier, each stakeholder will have to work in that direction. So it is the OEMs, it is the LSPs, the transporters, the government, everybody will have to come together to reduce the cost. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sushil, for those remarks. Let's take we'll probably take 10-15 minutes for Q&A before lunch, whilst we have this distinguished panel in front of you. Does anybody want to start us off from the audience? Right in the front here, please.
Hi, my name is Sudhir Jaiswal. I'm from Mahindra. My question is to Mr. Sundaram. It's an excellent port, Mundra port. I visited there. It's state-of-art port and all the facilities are excellent. I have one query, and it's for general industry as such. For companies located in Maharashtra, near Pune, like Mahindra, Tata Motors, Volkswagen, you know it. If I take our vehicles from our factory locations to Mundra port, compared to Bombay port, I'm just giving an example, there is additional $200 freight cost, all right? Now, this one part of it, therefore, it can't be used as of now as a long-term commercially viable proposition. We may work towards that, that's one option. So, most of us tend to use it on-off to meet the cargo requirement or customer requirement on and off. So one key hurdle for us is that the PDI. Now you know your dedicated PDI for Maruti, correct? Now for many of us, like on and off, when you take some 10 cars or 20 cars, 30 cars, the key challenge is how to do the PDI. And do you have some views on this for a common PDI process there in the port? Because without that, we can't dispatch the vehicles.
Hello. Yeah. Okay, very valid question. We have a port called Hazira now, which is a ideal alternative to the port of Bombay, which is primarily to cater to the OEMs and the manufacturers in the Pune cluster or the Western cluster. We are in the process of looking at a common PDI facility at Hazira. Mundra, certainly, yes, the logistics cost will increase for sure, which certainly you cannot look at a long-term basis. But Hazira is certainly a very good option which you should consider, because it is just about 200 kilometers additional that you have to travel from Bombay. And you should look at a holistic picture at Hazira. In Bombay, ships are waiting, there are damages, there are a lot of additional costs that are incurred by the OEM, yeah. So a little incremental cost on transportation should kind of, set off, and you should look at Hazira as a more viable option, more hassle-free operation, and less headache, I can put it that way. Yeah.
So my question was, are you planning to provide a common PDI setup there in Hazira as well?
Yes, Hazira, we are looking at a common PDI setup. We have been getting inquiries for dedicated space by different OEMs. A lot of OEMs have already started visiting Hazira, and we are looking at an option of a common PDI space in Hazira. That's why my answer to you is more of Hazira, because in Mundra, certainly, as you said, travel time becomes longer, logistics cost becomes longer. You may not look at Mundra on a regular basis. See, if we have to invest in a PDI for you in Mundra, then we need to have some volume commitment, which you will not be able to give, because you are right there in Pune, and you will be using Mundra only on an ad hoc basis. Yeah. So instead, we have an option for you in Hazira, which I think is much viable for you as compared to Mundra, and which could be used by all the OEMs in the Western India cluster.
Harry, just to clarify, do you have a common PDI center in Mundra, or is there just something
No.
dedicated for Maruti?
Right now, we have a PDI that is exclusively for Maruti. In fact, Maruti operates the PDI. We don't have any common PDI in Mundra as of now.
Okay, thanks for the question. Any other? Have something in the front here, please. Mic behind you.
Good morning, all. My name is Vaibhav. I am from Daimler India. My question is for Bill. Bill, most of your presentation shows passenger cars. Do you have any experience in commercial vehicles, and do you have any innovative way of loading trucks into these transportation purpose?
I myself do not have that experience, but we have partnered with a company, Lore Industries from France. Some of you may be familiar with them. They do have a manufacturing facility here in Pune, and they are our partners to help us develop those types of products as well. Those are additional models that will be coming into the marketplace over the next several years.
In passenger cars, it's a it's a smaller one, so we can utilize the space in a tractor trailer for traveling from one location to another. But commercial being it's a very bigger one, so do you have any innovative idea how we can utilize the truck and trips?
We haven't, myself, I have not used that type of product, but our engineers are very ingenious. We're taking the combined technology of previous auto carrier technology and we're blending it with our technology as well as we speak. So this is going to be a process that's going to take place over the next several years. So, but it is something that's coming to play. So I can't answer your question positively, but I'm very optimistic that there's ways of achieving what you're looking to do.
I think there's someone in the corner who wants to answer you on the other hand, so if we can just pass the mic. Yeah.
To answer your question, like Bill said, we are working together, LORE and CTM. On the truck carrying, we already have concepts and designs where you can carry containers. So if that's something which is interesting, it can be done. The only question is the dimensions for vehicle carriers are for vehicle carriers. And if you start combining vehicle carriers with goods carriers, and that's where the confusion again comes up. And Bill and I, we have had a lot of discussion on this, and that's also something for the rest of the audience here also to look at. When we're looking at the dimensions of vehicle carriers, the concept of optimizing empty miles, whether it is to carry containers, whether it's to carry goods, can be brought in, but the vehicle carrier dimensions are slightly longer than the goods carriers, and that's where the bringing in the solutions is getting delayed, because this clarity in the regulation is not there today. That can you use vehicle carriers to carry goods, whether it's containers, whether it's engines, whatever that may be. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Anand. I didn't see you in the crowd there.
Okay, we've got a couple of hands. Let's start here, and then we'll move back.
Thank you. Matt Abel from Jack Cooper, United States. My question for Mr. Kapoor. Yesterday, Lord Trailers talked about their first foray into India. They were looking for legal trailers and only had a handful of orders. When they went and changed the model to operate as he said, as Romans do, and more of an illegal type, they had a bevy of orders. Today, Bill Pollock talked about the open versus enclosed trailers and some technological innovations that he has. With Maruti Suzuki being the largest OEM in India, very influential, what is your position on supporting, I guess, legal equipment and technological innovations? I think you have more influence with the carriers and with the government than any other entity. Just like to have your thoughts on that.
Yeah, good question. In Maruti, we try to encourage the legal compliance, but the irony of the fact is the legal compliance is not very clear. So there are events when transporters are themselves interested in ferrying bigger vehicles. So that's internal fact that we try to make them use legal compliance carriers, and to the extent we pay them extra for complying with that. And the other issue about open carriers is still, not matured enough for the Indian market. We had tried it earlier, but later on we have to switch over to the closed containers because of various things what go on the road while the traffic is moving. There are trees, shrubs, people all over the road. You know it better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe just slightly for the edification of, if nothing else, our international audience, where is some of the confusion on the actual length in terms of, does it vary by state, or is it overhang, or where is the kind of confusion coming?
On the length and the drawbar concept.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What's the question in the back?
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. This is Vishal from Lahore, India. Again, the question goes to Mr. Kapoor and Mr. Ramakrishnan. It is simple. From last 2 days, we all are discussing all about the cost optimization. And this question goes again to all my OEM friends, that we need to do cost optimization, something we can reduce cost as such. Kapoor sir has clearly mentioned about efficient logistics, and we can use increased use of technology. And when the people like us come with the technology, yeah, we do understand there are some hurdles like road conditions, something safety issues are there. But at the same time, what a question that comes to me, or where the people tell me, a simple point is that we cannot change our IT system. In the present scenario, for the traditional illegal trailers, the provision is there for 8 carriers or 10 carriers. But where in my carrier, if can carry a 1 car extra, so for 8 it can carry 9, and for the 10 it can carry 11. But still the OEMs don't give some of the customers who are already having these carriers, technological vehicles, but they don't give them this extra car, saying that our IT system is not capable enough, we cannot give. So I just wanted to know that is it really that big problem, that how difficult is it to change the IT system if it's going to save you your and increase your cost, save your costing on the logistics. Thank you.
Look, IT systems are developed for enhancing the efficiencies. They are not bottlenecks. If you can recall, we have gone into special design of TR8 where we have been giving extra freight also. But still, I mean, what we refer as illegal or legal is not true, right? So till the time there is a guideline in black and white by the government, then only we will say what is legal and what is illegal.
Okay, maybe time for 1 or 2 more questions if we have them. In the front there from Ramesh.
This question is for Mr. Kapoor as well as Mr. Ramakrishnan. I'm Ramesh Kumar. Well, you know, like you spoke about, just going to raise a few questions on the safety side. You spoke about, you know, kind of driver alert system you have on the outbound side. And I just want, the question number 1 is night driving. Is there any instruction on beyond what time your car carriers are not supposed to ply on the road? Because night time is a very, you know, dangerous time to drive. Number 2, the question number 2, you said, you know, you also give a 4-hour rest alert, okay? I reckon that also holds good for your car carriers, okay? I mean, it's a very good move, but is it being really monitored, or it just, you know, like an your advisory? That's left to the driver to take call. Wait, few more questions. The other one is, you know, like you being, you know, you are the pioneer to bring in the car carrier system, okay, the 0 mile, it's a fantastic concept. And you spoke about, one of you spoke about 350 kilometers per day, all these vehicles move. So a distance of Gurgaon, Manesar to Chennai takes you 6 to 7 days. So, I mean, you being the pioneer in this kind of a concept, have you ever thought about creating night halt facilities across the country? Because, you know, it's a vast nation. Yeah.
Maybe we address some of those questions, and then you could, so we can remember them if anything else.
Look, the driver alert system, what we have installed is advice to the drivers as well as the transporters. We regularly circulate the reports. However, in some cases, because of no entry restrictions, it becomes inevitable to cross that particular areas and drive in the night. So they are forced to do that. However, whenever we interact with the even fleet operators and circulate the communication to them through the reports what are generated to avoid night driving and frequent rests.
Mr. Ramakrishnan, what is your take on that? What is that you guys are doing at Honda? Incidentally, both of you are Japanese companies, which gives a lot more importance to safety and security.
Okay. From our point of view, we have calculated, as you said, 325 or 350 kilometers and given a transit time, lead time or delivery to our dealers. We have very clearly communicated to all our service providers that there will not be any night driving. They have very clearly communicated you can drive during early morning, late evening or during the day. But no night driving has been very clearly communicated. And we do keep checking this through our own systems and whatever control systems that we have incorporated. One thing that I know, for a matter of fact, Mr. Ramesh, that you have been working very closely with the drivers to improve their standard, quality and try to educate. But what we find is how much soever you try to educate or try to inculcate certain discipline among the drivers, it's not getting done. Probably it is a nature. In fact, I can tell you, you are talking about creating hubs on the way. If I know most of my vendors have tried to fix with some of the, in order to ensure safety of the driver, cargo and the truck, they have made some associations with certain petrol pump and other people en route, where these people are allowed to stay, spend the overnight and be there. But sometimes they don't do it, they go forward because they may have their own thought process, the drivers, because finally you can't control them. You can control only to some extent. In fact, we have seen even in our factory at Tapukara, we have created a very good facility for our drivers, including kitchen platform, taking bath and all. But in spite of that, they feel that it is better they do it outside or they like to sleep outside. So that's why I was mentioning how to inculcate or institute HR culture and HR policies as a part of our development system with the vendors and drivers. That's how I would like to sum it up. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more question in the front here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kavya Mittal from Bureau Veritas. My question is, we understand logistics is a big cost, and what is the actual cost or approximate cost of poor quality in this total cost, and what are the major steps have been taken by OEMs, to optimize that cost? So we know the European figures a bit. We would like to get some information on what is the cost of poor quality in India, both to Mr. Kapoor and Mr. Ramakrishnan.
Okay. I think quality has actually improved a lot over a period of time, because it's not only because of actions or initiatives taken by the organization. As one of the presentations you must have seen, where we spoke about the cost of insurance. So if you don't maintain quality, if you don't try to deliver on quality, your cost of insurance is unnecessarily going up. So the delivery has improved. The biggest cost as a factor, if I look at it, 35 to 40% is because of various hurdles that people face on the road. Whether it could be in the form of a RTO checkpost or a border checkpost or a traffic jam or even a strike en route, or let us look at toll plazas. This is what is creating a bottleneck. These bottlenecks, when you convert that, it is a waste. But somebody has to bear the cost. And that is what is our biggest concern in our country. If we are able to attack this, see, most of the time we are speaking through SIAM to government also to try and eliminate all these things. But it's not getting eliminated. If we are able to eliminate, I am sure the most happiest people will be the vendors. As I said, their asset utilization base will improve. Like Mr. Rati was mentioning that they are using only 4,000 kilometers. As we know, everyone, 6,000 kilometers minimum are required to feel that your asset realizes the benefit. But they are not. So all these negatives have already added as your cost. And that is what is our challenge to reduce. Quality, I think, has by far improved.
Okay, thank you. I mean, we may not get a rupee amount on that, but I think it's safe to assume that it's a lot and it's important. I think we're going to have to kind of end it there. I will highlight that after lunch, there's several roundtable discussions. I believe damage limitation is one of them. Short sea shipping is others. There's a number of them relative to finished vehicle logistics, and I think we're going to signpost these outside during the break so you can choose which table you'd like to join, and indeed you can move around as well. It's quite informal. Thank you very much to all of our panelists for their input and their presentations. Please join us all now for lunch. Can I just remind you all again once as well about your evaluation forms on your desk? Please do fill them in and get them back to us. Thank you.